This Pokemon fan game has taken the world by storm. It's called Pokemon Gamma Emerald, and it is set to revolutionize the entire Pokemon landscape. And you may think to yourself, how's that even possible? Well, the developer of this game, Undream Panic, decided to remake Emerald in Unreal Engine. And the result of this is that the game is being built from the ground up, and it looks absolutely stunning, as these are the best graphics we've ever seen in Pokemon history. With its beautiful 2D HD graphics, the world has never felt more alive. And because the game has only been in development for around a year and a half, we've just gotten our very first demo that works as a prologue for the main game, with an original story and soundtrack that's short but sweet. The game has so many other features that we'll be going through in this video, so let's check out the full-on demo of Pokemon Gamma Emerald together right here, right now. The game starts off with this epic title screen where you and your Pokemon are facing Rayquaza. And the cool thing is that these Pokemon behind you change depending on the Pokemon you have in your party. So eventually you'll be rocking up to the Sky God with a party of all your favorite Pokemon. Once you get past this, it's time to start your adventure. Here you get greeted by Undream Panic, the developer of this game himself, who reminds you that this is indeed just a demo as a fun experiment to test and fix bugs while trying new neat things. Then we find ourselves on a boat sailing the Hoenn seas, and our character is reading a letter from our mother. It states that she's already moved into Littleroot town in the Hoenn region, and we're currently going there as well. But she wasn't able to go with us because she had to arrange some movers before we got there. We then head to sleep to make the ride a little bit shorter, but we get woken up by our captain, who's getting attacked by a Wingull. After a little bit of chit chat, we explained to him that we want to become a great Pokemon trainer, and he says that the Hoenn region is a great place to do that. He tells me to go back to sleep because we still have a long journey ahead of us, but after a couple of hours of sleep, we get waken up again by the worst scenario ever. A huge storm that catches our captain and boat off guard. But somehow we manage to survive and wake up on the docks of a mysterious island. We have no idea what happened, so Captain Pete tells me we got knocked overboard. And it's actually a miracle we even made it to this place, because the boat is completely broken, so for now we'll be stranded here until we can fix it. Captain Pete goes back inside to check his map, but he knows that this island is nowhere to be found. Plus his radio has stopped working too, so we really are stranded in the middle of nowhere. But because there is a pier here, it can't be uninhabited. So we have to go out and search for help while Pete stays with the boat. First thing I do though is check out our menu, where we have a PC accessible without any Pokemon of course, and of course all of the other necessary things in any Pokemon game like your bag, party, and save option. And I just have to point out that this UI looks perfect for an Emerald game. But enough glazing the menus, let's glaze this forest up ahead instead. Look at the flowing leaves everywhere. It makes everything feel so vibrant and alive as we're walking down this road. But this wonderful sight is cut short by a little stand that we found with a note made by Professor Birch. It states that he came here to log different kinds of Pokemon, but there seems to be a faction or bad presence on this island. And because they seem very dangerous, he decided to leave. All because they were talking about harvesting a Pokemon's power in order to channel this land's growth towards a legendary Pokemon. But even though he's gone, this isn't the worst thing, because he left behind his briefcase in the back. And we all recognize this beauty because it holds the best starter trio in all of Pokemon: Torchic, Trico, and Mudkip. I'll of course be going with my channel mascot Mudkip, who will eventually turn into Swampert. However, the moment I picked it up, I heard some rustling behind me. And when I turned around, these weird goons in red suits showed their faces. Their names are Larry and Sherry, and they're after some rare Pokemon, and because they saw the briefcase behind me, they of course want to steal them. Apparently they're with a group called Team Magma, who are working together with another group called the Mercenaries. They also somehow tell me that they've just joined up yesterday, which means they should be easy pickings for me and my new Mudkip, since we're not going to let this briefcase go without a fight. And so it's time for our very first Pokemon battle, and I have to say, I love how this looks. It really feels like a 2D and 3D world have somehow merged together. The shading and animations are done in such a beautiful way as well, which makes it look so polished. And when I defeated this opposing Poochyena, he even had a fainting animation, and I believe this is also the case for every other Pokemon. When I won this battle, I also found out about achievements seconds, which is a neat thing to work towards if you want to 100% complete this demo. But first, we need to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Crystal of Atlan, a brand new Magic Punk MMO action RPG where you'll be able to immerse yourself in the world of Atlan to uncover the mystery behind the energy source of Atlan, the crystals. They're also a source of magical powers that gives adventurers special abilities. Which brings us to the class system. There is 11 classes to choose from, all unlocked from the start, and each with over 20 skill combinations, so you can try and experiment with your favorite ones. I personally went with the Musketeer class and then branched out into Bounty Hunter, which specializes in high burst damage. You can also work together with your friends in co-op missions to find out how different classes work together. And if trash talking is your game, you can put your money where your mouth is with their 3v3 and 1v1 PvP modes, where everything will be perfectly balanced, so skill will be the only thing that matters here. It's also cross-platform between Google Play, App Store, PC, and PlayStation 5, so if all of this sounds interesting to you, you can download Crystal of Atlan right now with the link in the description and pinned comment to embark on your Magic Punk adventure. A huge thank you to them for sponsoring today's video, and let's get right back into Gamma Emerald. But let's go back to the Team Magma situation. Once they got defeated, they decided to distract me and then rushed in to steal the briefcase anyway. They're going to bring this briefcase to their bosses, the mercenaries, and they also mentioned that someone on their team found the Team Aqua base, which they're going to try and get rid of because this entire island is controlled by Team Magma. Once they're gone, I pick up some Pokeballs and a Beldum that was in front of Professor Birch's stand, and when I checked this Pokemon out, I stumbled upon something weird. It had a ton of moves that it would normally never learn, like Astonish, Bite, and Ancient Power. At the time, I didn't think too much of it, but in a little while, I'll be going over this more in depth. About a minute later, Captain Pete showed up, who's happy to see that we've gotten ourselves a Pokemon because it was left behind by its previous trainer. After I tell him what happened here, we hear a voice coming from the right of us. It's a guy in a blue pirate outfit, and Captain Pete immediately asks him if he's part of Team Magma, but he doesn't want to be associated with those clowns. He states that his name is Hero and he was impressed with our battling skills. However, he also knows that we're stranded with our boat, and he's willing to help us out by giving us the boat parts we need to fix it at a cost, of course. But he isn't willing to talk about it here. We need to go meet him on the road past Ashen Forest, and if we manage to make it past all Team Magma members that are guarding the way, he knows that we'll be one to trust. He then leaves, but Captain Pete doesn't fully trust this individual. However, he sees in my eyes that I'm ready to go out on this adventure, so he tells me to go and retrieve those boat parts and meet me back at the docks when we're done. Before he leaves, he also hands me a Pokedex that he found laying amongst the road, plus he also activates the Delibird delivery service, which we can only use to order useful items like potions, revives, and Pokeballs. And yes, before you ask, he did try calling them, but unfortunately, they don't save people on mysterious islands, they just deliver goods. I then decided to open up the Pokedex, and we immediately find out that there's 53 Pokemon in this demo. If this was the full game, I'd probably try to complete it, but for now, we're just going to roll with what we find. So I started running in the first patches of grass I could find to capture our first ever Pokemon, Wurmple. So I started weakening it with a couple of tackles and threw my Pokeball at it, and I have to say, this animation looks so stylistic. With the curveball and all, there was no way this worm was escaping. Shortly after, we battled our second Team Magma Grunt, and once we defeated him, an exclamation point popped up from my character because Wurmple was about to evolve into Silcoon. And immediately after, my game crashed for the very first time because I just didn't want to throw out my Pokemon for some reason. So if you do play this game yourself, make sure to save after every single battle because the game crashes quite a bit because it's still in demo and the bugs are still being worked on. But I did manage to find a way to make this happen less often, and that's letting your Pokemon out of its Pokeball. Just like in Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, he will follow you around everywhere, which made me feel even more immersed in the world of Pokemon. With Mudkip by my side, I traveled further up the road, where I found my first rest stop. Here you can sleep to heal up your Pokemon and use the Delibird service to buy Pokeballs, Great Balls, Revives, Basic Potions, and Shimmer Balls. These will have an increased catch rate against shiny Pokemon, so you never end up failing one ever again. I battled my way through the rest of the island and find a Team Magma Grunt with a Lotad, which doesn't make any sense. Why would Team Magma use Water-type Pokemon? But I digress. I bet it's because there's only a limited amount of Pokemon available in the game and the creator wants to show off as many of them as possible. But I do have to say that the Ancient Power animation is really polished, which is the case with nearly every single one of the moves moves you'll see in this game. Another weird thing is the level scaling, like this next Grunt I battled, which was just after the last fight, had level 18 and 15 Pokemon, which were higher than my highest level Mudkip. A little further on, I would then battle Grunts with level 11 Pokemon again, which didn't really make sense to me and felt like a really weird choice. In the middle of all of this, however, we did evolve our Silcoon into Beautifly, and I also captured the dummy Psyduck. I also ran into a machine that these Grunts were guarding. It was glowing with green colors and felt like it was taking energy from the surrounding area. However, I could not stop it because they required a keycard to access. So because I knew I couldn't uncover this mystery right now, I moved on and battled even more Grunts so my Mudkip would evolve into Marshtomp, who unfortunately did not learn a ground type move. In our next battle, I ran into another bug where two of my Pokemon would be glitching together. I'm pretty sure this happens when you switch out your overworld Pokemon, and switching out your Pokemon to another one in battle doesn't really help either. I'm pointing out most of the bugs I ran into so that they'll hopefully be fixed by the time you decide to play the game. Shortly after this, I beat up a Team Magma Grunt Kecleon, which evolved my Beldum into Metang. Moving on was a pond that was yet again infested by Team Magma members, which made it look a lot less calm than it was. I then captured a Volbeat and moved on to the Ashen Forest, and this place was totally destroyed as Pokemon were rampaging out of the forest when I walked in, probably running away from the fire that was engulfing this place. And my first thought was that this must have been Team Magma's work. So I wasn't surprised to see that the place was crawling with them yet again. So I started knocking them down one by one, and even started capturing some of their signature Pokemon like Poochyena and Vulpix. Because Poochyena was already level 30 when I captured it, it easily evolved into Mightyena in a couple of seconds. As I was running through the rest of this ruined forest, we ran into one of those generators yet again, and just like last time, we weren't able to do anything about it. I rested again and bought some extra items at the next rest stop, and a little further up the road, I crossed a bridge, and on the other side, a Team Magma member was waiting for me. He had found the HM for strength and wouldn't give it to me, so I beat him up in a Pokemon battle and showed his Rhyhorn not to mess with my Marshtomp. After that, he ran away and dropped the HM so we could push boulders around like a bodybuilder. Once we were done flexing our muscles, we ran into the two goons that stole our briefcase at the start, Larry and Sherry, who have gotten lost here in this forest. It doesn't even seem like they know left from right, but eventually they do spot me. They think that we were following them because we didn't know the way either, but joke's on me because now we're all lost. But they haven't forgotten about our little battle earlier, and so they demand a rematch to regain their honor. Larry had a level 20 Mightyena that got one-shotted by my Marshtomp's Aqua Tail, and Sherry threw out a Numel that got extinguished by Aqua Jet. They blame their surroundings for the loss because battling in a forest like this doesn't feel normal. They find it very creepy because it's all dead and grimy, and then they start to wonder who actually did this, because it couldn't be their beloved Team Magma. That would mean they're the bad guys. But before they can even realize this, a weird character shows up looking for Shaman. Larry and Sherry's tone immediately shifts as they get really scared from this character and run away so they can hide in a bush and run through the forest to Lucius' camp, which is probably the place where their entire operation is being held. Once they run off, the person walks up to me and asks what we're doing here because a child should not be hanging around in a place like this. We tell her our intentions of trying to make it off this island by helping the Team Aqua Grunt and stopping Team Magma's operation here. She states that it's idiotic to tell our master plan to one of the mercenaries because they are the ones who are really running this place. All the destruction that happened in this forest was their doing, and Team Magma are just their pawns in this game of chess. And she isn't going to let some kid stir things up. So let's look her straight in the eyes and fight Mercenary Yor. And this fight was incredibly hard for me. She had a level 30 Breloom, a level 35 Gallade, and a level 40 Lucario. Meanwhile, my strongest Pokemon was a level 31 Marshtomp. And despite me getting my ass kicked 4 times in a row, the game also ended up crashing a couple of times, which nearly made me quit. And when my party fainted for the 5th time, I knew we had to grind until I got a Swampert, which surprisingly already happened at level 32 instead of 36. So with him fully buffed up and ready to go, I decided to challenge Yor again. She of course leads with her Breloom that does not have a single legal move. I'm talking Acid Spray, Bite, and Wrap, which are moves that it normally never learns. So I threw out Beautifly, who at this point did not have a single flying type move yet. So I happened to go for Poison Stings, which are super effective and eventually even poisoned the little mushroom. Once we got taken out by a third acid spray, however, I brought out Swablu to hit Air Slash, and that managed to take care of it. I also hit one more on Gallade before getting smashed by a Brig Break. This forced me into Matang, who was hitting Astonishes and bites that were doing barely any damage. And after this Gallade hit a Blaze Kick, my flying UFO fell to the ground. That's when I brought out my Tiena and saw that this girl was absolutely stupid, as it kept on clicking Psybeam, which was not going to work on my Dark type. And with 3 more bites, Gallade would go down, all because of the bad battle choices. Last up was our level 40 scarf-wearing Lucario, who easily could have taken care of my Swampert if it kept on spamming Aura Sphere, but instead it clicked Blaze Kick, Calm Mind, and Acrobatics, which allowed me to survive and kill it with 3 Aqua Tails in a row. And you might have also seen that my Swampert does indeed have Aqua Tail twice, which I suppose is yet another bug that will be worked out. Oh, and when a move gets replaced by another move, the PP of that previous move will also be kept. Hence why both of them have different PP values. Anyway, after winning the fight, the game still plays out as if we lost, with Swampert going down to her Lucario's Aura Sphere. This made her realize that we are indeed pathetic and weak, and that means we're not even worth eliminating. She then calls all the remaining units to gather energy from the generators and leave immediately, and she also says that the generators need to keep on running so that the rest of the forests will also be affected, which will bring them closer to their goal. She then leaves and we get to explore the rest of this island, which leads us to the Blooming Forest, where we meet with Hero yet again, who tells me to follow him in between the trees. This is where we get led to Team Aqua's base of operation, which is very small, but they did their best with the limited amount of resources they have, as their other big base got destroyed by Team Magma because they underestimated them, and now they're understaffed and can use some help. So we tell him about everything that just went down in the forest, which makes him a bit disappointed because we ended up losing, but he's still going to count on our strength, because the rest of Team Aqua has basically been wiped out and there is no other communication outside of this island. Plus, for some reason, if Pokemon from outside this island step onto the island, they just immediately lose consciousness. So now we're their only hope. Our mission is simple. We need to find 3 generators in the Ashen Forest and override them with this key card he gives me. This will cripple their source of power and delay their plan. And if we do this, he'll give us my boat parts so we can fix the boat and leave. So of course, we go out and destroy the 3 generators as fast as possible because we know their exact locations already. But when I went back to the Team Aqua base, Hero was nowhere to be found. Maybe he got captured, so I went to explore the rest of the Blooming Forest. While I was admiring the majestic trees that were around everywhere, I did run into a Pokemon that would help me out greatly through the rest of this predicament. And that was this awesome level 58 Dragonite that took a while to capture, but eventually he did join my forces. But because he was like 20 levels above the rest of my team, I decided to not use him too much, because otherwise we'd just be steamrolling everyone. A little further up the road, I found another rest stop and a weird looking trainer called Raora Panthera. I don't know if she was a reference to anything, but she just had a Zigzagoon and Mudkip that were way too underleveled and got defeated instantly. She didn't really give anything else story-wise, so I decided to leave her in the dust and entered a little place hidden between the trees. Here the game required me to rotate some pillars into the right order so that they would eventually open up this cave entrance. Further inside, we met up with more Team Magma members that we had to beat up, and of course that wouldn't come with its own bugs, as my game crashed a few more times during these battles as well. I also found out that you need to lift these big grass patches up, and underneath you'll either find a Pokemon or a symbol. These symbols need to be the exact same on the pillars you need to rotate in this room, and once you've completed that puzzle, the next area will be opened up. That's where you can rest up your team, but when you try to enter the next room, you get stopped by a weird looking trainer. His name is Lucius, and he has waited 4 centuries for his next rival to appear, and his duty is to keep his rival away from the mercenary clan. So let's battle this guy with our glitch Pokemon and see if we can beat him. He leads with a Sceptile that has the coolest sunglasses you'll ever see on his face. I know my Swampert isn't going to be dealing with this kind of threat, so I swap in Dragonite and use Aerial Ace to one-shot it. He then sends out his own Dragonite, but because he is like 30 levels below mine, he also gets one-shotted by Aerial Ace. His last Pokemon is an Altaria, and because I don't really have a different answer for it, I decide to stay in yet again, click Aerial Ace twice, and win the battle. Our Swablu then also evolves into our very own Altaria, and Lucius honors this defeat with a parting gift called the Shiny Ping. He then says he's going to leave the mercenaries because he probably has better things to do with his time, and then leaves the scene, never never to be seen again. After this, I decide to use the shiny pink for myself, and as it turns out, the moment you use it, the next Pokemon you will then encounter will in fact be a shiny. For me, it turned out to be a Mytiena, which we already have, so I used my Shimmer Ball on it and put it in my box, never to be used again. You can also reuse this shiny ping every 200 steps, so if you want to beat the game with a full-on shiny team, that's actually possible. But that's not something I'm going to be doing because we need to head into the heart of this Team Magma hideout, which fittingly seems to be laying in the middle of a volcano, with lava flowing through the caves here. Inside, we of course battle more grunts, and the deeper that we go, the more machinery we find, like these weird computers and contraptions that don't really make sense to me. I also captured a Rhydon to buff up my team just a little bit, and then caved my way through the final part of this cavern. And that's where we see this huge contraption of a machine that's taking power from this entire island, and also the mastermind behind it all that's standing in front of it. He's well aware that Team Magma did not complete their mission, and even calls them useless because they couldn't even handle a Magikarp if they wanted to. But none of that matters because he, Omari, already achieved his goal, as Maxi wanted him to capture Shaman with those other two mercenaries so that they could terraform this island into something way bigger. However, he thinks this idea is preposterously stupid because a real genius can use Shaman's power for something way more interesting. By harvesting its power, he can summon a different and stronger legendary Pokemon, which will allow him to become the strongest. And to ensure that he'll be the strongest on this island already, he's going to get rid of me right here and now. But we're not going down without a fight, so let's give Dr. Omari a battle that he'll remember. So he orders his Salamence to attack my Swampert, but after hitting a tackle, I know I can't do enough damage to this thing. So I swap in the Pokemon that would make this all possible, Dragonite, and use Aerial Ace to take it down. Next up is his second pseudo-legendary, Metagross. And while he is able to hit a Thunder Punch, it barely does any damage, and we hit 2 bites to send him to the scrapyard. Next on out is Porygon 2, but not just any form of Porygon 2. This feels like a Paradox Pokemon or Regional 4, because it looks way more mechanical than usual, and I'm guessing this is now part electric type. So I swap in Swampert, and it tries to hit me with a Thunder Shock a couple of turns in a row. That gets negated by my ground typing, and so I follow up with 3 Aqua Tails to finish it off and beat Dr. Omari. But he says he still wins because he has Shaman's power. However, that's when the 2 Eon legendaries, Latios and Latias, show up. They've had enough of these people terrorizing their island and use their powers to destroy this machine and free Shaman. But I bet this isn't the last we'll be seeing from Dr. Omari because this power has been stored by him, and now he'll be going off to look for the space Pokemon, so that must either be Deoxys or Rayquaza. He then flies off and we get greeted by Shaman and Latios, who thank me for all of my efforts in trying to save the island. Shaman even runs off and tells me to follow it so he can challenge it to a Pokemon battle. It's also nice to see that Hero walks into the room safe and sound because he's very happy that we've managed to complete our mission, and in return he's now going to deliver the boat parts so we can leave. We then say our goodbyes and hop on Latios' back, who brings us outside. I then follow a newly created path into a field full of flowers where we get to face the mythical Pokemon we just saved, Shaman. So I decide to capture it so no one else can take its power and use it for any evil means. We then take the long road back to the boat and talk to Captain Pete. He's already fixed the boat and is ready to sail out. But just before we can enter, a mysterious Musharna shows up and puts me to sleep with its powers. And the next thing we remember is waking up in the back of a moving van as we arrive in Littleroot Town with our mother. And that was the amazing demo of Pokemon Gamma Emerald. I personally can't wait for the full release, but I want the creator to take his time and really iron out most of those bugs because they were very much ruining my gameplay experience at some points. So for now, I would not recommend playing the Pokemon Gamma Emerald demo yet until all of those are fully fixed. Otherwise, I feel like the experience of this amazing game could be ruined. With that being said, I of course want to thank the wonderful membership and Patreon supporters right here, right now, because they did not get a chance to feature as nicknames are not available in the game just yet. They of course helped me out a ton, and if you want to sign up yourself, you can do so by using the link in the description. With all of that out of the way, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends if you found it interesting. I've been Zwiggo, and I'll see you all in the next one.